Coin traders and Algo fam, how's it going? Thanks for joining me for the show. Looking at Algorand ALGO on that ticker right now. So just closed the daily candle here a couple of minutes ago and looking very nice and a nice setup. And as the rest of the markets were kind of sideways lately, we had a pretty nice candle that just closed on the daily for Algorand. And what's essentially great about this type of candle formation and setup that we've talked about before is that with only one bullish day, especially with this pretty minimal volume that we saw, and volumes were pretty low across the rest of the crypto space as well, but because we actually have this nice candle with this body that completely engulfed the previous 3 bearish bars in terms of the body size, this is just an extremely good bullish sign, especially when this previous bullish day also engulfed the 3 bearish following days. So we have essentially one nice bullish candle, 3 bearish candles that couldn't even knock out the magnitude of the body, and then one bullish candle as well, especially with minimal volume to completely wipe out all 3 of these bearish bars in terms of the body magnitudes, especially with decent amount of volume here coming in for these candles. So for example, if we actually look at volume here for these 3 candles, we're looking at a total volume of 47.38 million. But if we look at the first bullish day, looking at 18.18, and then the one that just closed, we're looking at 9.19. So even totaling those together, we're still less than, we're pretty much only about 2/3 of about what we saw for the overall 3 days. So definitely a lot of bearish volume here compared to what we saw, and just to put prices back to where they were. So we had essentially 47 million, of algo volume pushing prices down, but then it only took about 9.19 million to push prices back up. And then the great thing about that too, if we look at these exponential moving averages, break of the 26, another break and close on top of the 26. So very nice to see, especially as we do have these overall exponential moving averages getting tighter and tighter. And hopefully we can get a little bit more of that fall through today and see another punch up and break and close on top of the 50. That would be a very nice sign, since that would be the first time since this big pullback and the full bearish flip here of these exponential moving averages that has happened. And so the other great thing about this short-term chart is that we're still forming this nice short-term trend line here where we are maintaining an upside pressure and momentum. So as long as we do still maintain this as an effective and relevant trend line, as indicated by all these continuous tests and affirmations that this is a relevant trend line because we are still holding it as that support, then we will continue to see upside pressure and momentum, fully creating this nice bullish flip and creating path of least resistance to the upside here. Now, in addition to that, also still maintaining this much larger, longer term uptrend here. Started with resistance back in November was our first point of resistance coming in. And then we did find that the bulls flipped it into support and had multiple attempts and back tests of it. So started out big point of resistance, flipped it into support. And ever since then, on the start of December, have been maintaining it ever since. Big point of support, another test of support, and then even recently another big test of support. So now finding a little bit more short-term upside pressure with a rising slope trend line that's higher than what we did experience for the longer term. Very good sign, especially as like we talked about, are looking at maintaining a lot more support on top of these exponential moving averages, especially after finding big points of resistance here in between the 12 and 26. Now to flip that and actually have 26 and 50 be the zone which we actually need to see bulls favor and close on top of. Now, if you're not currently active over on Twitter, big exciting announcement was that the Algorand Foundation did release a pretty nice commercial here for Algorand, and it does knock on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Mostly it does knock on Solana and Ethereum, but overall definitely a good commercial, I think, and it's great to see a lot more marketing coming out of the Algorand Foundation and Algorand as a whole. And so it was posted by the new Algorand CMO, so marcvl.algo is the handle. Go drop a follow over there for the new CMO. Definitely a great sign to see. And because of that, I think it will lead to a lot of exposure. Not necessarily sure how we're actually going to see Algorand starting to see that commercial integrated, but overall, it's nice to see a little bit more marketing efforts out of Algorand as a whole. Now, big pattern that we are flirting with, and we talked about these trend lines, but also have a very relevant sloping downtrend line that has been in effect for some time now. So essentially, depending on how we want to draw this, we could say that we have broken bullish from it, or we also need to see a little bit more pressure to the upside. And we'll go ahead with that narrative, especially as we do still maintain resistance with these exponential moving averages. So like we talked about, sloping line of support now providing a lot of that guide to the upside, but also, as you can see, still a lot of points of resistance now leading to lower highs. And so despite that, we're actually still seeing prices maintain in this overall range and zone. But because we have had prices actually rallying up to test the previous price highs, even though they didn't maintain a close, we're still a little bit more of that bullish favoritism on this chart rather than just making lower price highs. So we were looking at a previous high of 2027 and then on the previous move 2025. So barely by 2 pips breaking the trend to actually, or excuse me, the price levels to make a new higher high in price, obviously still maintaining closing levels of resistance inside the zone. So apex, we're looking at essentially the first to second week of June, depending on how you actually want to draw these trend lines. But like we talked about with a lot of these big upside movements and breakouts, we are starting to favor a little bit more bullish momentum, especially with a lot of the rest of the crypto space showing bullish signs as well, specifically Bitcoin and now Ethereum too, especially with the passing of the Ethereum spot ETF. So essentially, if we do get a very nice upside directional breakout, flipping these exponential moving averages back into support, seeing a back test, we would be looking at a longer term target, probably about the 24-cent level. And then realistically, probably seeing a little bit of a back test before running up to test the 28-cent resistance. And then once that level does break, then we would be on our way to test the resistance points in the 30s. To the downside, though, if we do see a pullback, we're pretty much going to be looking and breaking those trend lines, looking at a pullback to about 1676. And then below that, we would be looking at a pullback and retracement down to about 1577 before we actually do see a little bit more upside attempts. So realistically, I think it's a good shot that we're actually going to be breaking bullish out of this type of scenario and setup, especially after kind of being more or less sideways and choppy for the last couple of months here. And so even if we do see a bearish break from this consolidation pattern, don't think that the likelihood of seeing a pullback to set new lower lows is likely. So either pulling back to the upper 16-cent level before a rally, or potentially even down to the 15 to 16-cent level before the rally after that. Now, do want to flip over here into the weekly chart. Plenty to talk about, especially as we have talked about before when we do look at the bodies of candles with how they compare to previous bearish or bullish candles that completely engulf them. So in this situation, it's kind of the opposite of the daily of what we saw, where it was 3 bullish weeks with decent volume as well, but that completely was shriveled up and actually knocked out by one bearish candle with a lot less bearish volume coming in. So even if we look at the first week, we actually see that that was a pretty big bearish week as well. And that didn't even cover, so these bullish candles on the weekly didn't even cover about half of the magnitude of this bearish bar. So despite all these 3 weeks with pretty decent volume, we didn't even knock out about a half of the body, magnitude of the body of the previous bearish week at 60 million algo. But now with that, we do have a lot of dip bind as indicated by these lower shadows here. So that's still a very good sign as well. But like we said, it only took one candle with not that much volume, 48.653 million algo, to actually push the price back down and maintain this close. So with 2 days left to go, we're actually looking at a nice size bullish candle. Not much volume, 74.821 million. And with a upside wick, we're looking at resistance right now coming in at all 3 of these exponential moving averages. But we are looking at still trying to break this level. But right now, big upside resistance points coming in for the close at 19.69 all the way up to the current price level, the previous level of closing resistance coming in at 2021. So big zone, especially in terms of the previous closes, as well as this exponential moving average. So need to see a lot of upside momentum and movement here with volume and actually closing above the zone. If we do close on top of 2021, that's pretty much going to be our surefire sign that we're going to likely see a big rally up to about the 24-cent level and then up to the 28-cent level on top of that. So overall, big zone to be mindful of is just going to be from the 20-cent level up to about the 21-cent level is going to be pretty big. So obviously, if we do get up to that point, would like to see price stabilize, kick off these exponential moving averages after they flip bullish, and then be on our way once again to break 22 and then head up to the 24-cent resistance point. If you have seen the commercial, definitely let me know your thoughts about the commercial and where you'd like to see it posted in the comment sections below. Or I did make a post over on Twitter or X about it. Drop me a follow over there at coin_trades is the handle. And then, of course, if you have not seen it just yet, go check it out. It's a pretty good, worthwhile watch, especially nice to see Algorand do some pretty good commercial and marketing efforts here. So with that, that is going to go ahead and wrap up the show today for Algorand, ALGO on that ticker. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button if you haven't done so just yet. And also appreciate all the continuous love and support. As always, it does mean so much. That's it for now, though, so stay safe, coin traders. Take care, and I'll catch you back in the next video.